Well, good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming to our session on using video coaching to improve new teacher induction. It's great to have you here. My name is Diane Lauer, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Priority Programs and Academic Support in the St. Vrain Valley School District. We have been using video to support our induction program for the last 3 years. And prior to that, we have had a very robust and comprehensive induction program that was primarily face-to-face. So today, this session is really around our journey in implementing video and how it's absolutely revolutionized coaching and what we see as professional learning in our district. And so I'm going to be on the microphone today, and in a small room like this, I'm going to resist my urge to put it down because we are being recorded. So do feel free. We hope that we have a great informal presentation today as we're all here as practitioners. So if you have questions, please do feel free to ask them. We have put opportunities for you to engage and have dialogue with your neighbors. And we also have some hands-on activities at the end where we'd love for you to have a chance to do some video annotation as well. So that's kind of our gamut today. I am joined by two of my colleagues, David Baker. He is our professional development coordinator in St. Vrain, so one of his major responsibilities is overseeing our new teacher induction program. And also here with me today is Karen Smith. Karen Smith is one of our teaching and learning coaches, and she spends about 50% of her time supporting new teachers, novice teachers, through our induction program, and then the other 50% of her time doing professional development across the district. So today, we're really thrilled to be here with you. And we're curious, I had a chance to connect with some of you and who you are and where you're from. And so just maybe a raise of hands, how many folks do we have here at the school level? Maybe principals or assistant principals? Fantastic, awesome. How about directors or executive directors, people at the central office level? Coordinators, fantastic. Superintendents, assistant superintendents, great. How about folks from industry? Maybe some of our companies, vendors, programs, fantastic. Universities, state, way to go, Anne. Thank you so much. Anybody I missed? Other folks in the room? Great. Had a chance to talk a little bit about why, with some of you, why you're here. We're really, our main purpose, our big idea is to talk about learning acceleration. And I have to tell you, that was not why we started using video for professional development. We did not think that it was actually going to accelerate teacher learning. But that is in fact what we did learn. And for the past year, our entire district has been reading Thank You for Being Late by Thomas Friedman. And one of his key ideas that he presents early on in the book is that when you take a look at the fact that we're living in an age of acceleration, when knowledge, technology, knowledge and information is outpacing, is exponentially growing, and you can see that curve just rapidly going up and up and up and up. When we take a look at human adaptability, you can see that kind of line that's also going up, but not so much. That there's actually a gap between the rate of which things are changing and our capacity as human to adapt to that rate of change. And so as a district, we've really been thinking quite intentionally around how are we managing this? How are we managing living in an age of acceleration? And we truly believe that by using video, we have found that way so that we can accelerate teacher growth, that we can match that age of acceleration. So why video, why now? Video has been around for years and years, and Many of us have perhaps taken videos of ourselves with the old projectors that we had to check out from the library, and that was pretty cumbersome. But in an age of the selfie, in an age of having a phone or any kind of digital device in just about any pocket, digital videography is ubiquitous. Anyone can do it. And so really, the technology has become a disruptive innovation. That when I talk to people across the districts, other folks that do professional development in districts like myself, I always ask, are you using video? How are you using video? Because one of the things that our superintendent talks about in our district is if you're working hard to maintain the status quo, you're actually falling behind. And so 3 years ago, when we took a look across our district, we knew that we were in an era of exponential change. We had teacher shortages. We actually 3 years ago pretty much put a moratorium on using substitutes for professional development. That was the year that I was hired as the executive director of professional development, and I have to tell you how exciting that was for me to learn that I would not be allowed to use substitute teachers, right? I'll have to admit it was a little nerve-wracking. Yes, that was true. My staff actually said, you know what, why don't you go in and talk to Dr. Haddad and see, maybe he'll give you some money for subs. And I said, I just got hired. You think I'm gonna walk in and ask for sub money? No, not gonna do that. Because I understood why we had the shortages. And what was happening was we would run a training program, and then all of a sudden we'd have 30 teachers over here, but then there'd be 30 teachers that had to cover other classes for teachers in the buildings across the district. That is not fair, and that is not fun. And quite frankly, for the years and years, this is 27 years for me in education, of which close to 20 now are in administration. For all the years that I've been doing professional development, when you haul everybody's cookies to the library, and whether you have 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5, 10, research tells us that is not going to make a difference. That it's actually ongoing support that's going to change and shift behavior. And so yes, we had sub shortages. That's like Peter Piper picked a peck. We were looking at our extra hour coach costs. I had some of our coaches saying things like, Diane, I'm spending more time in the car than I am coaching teachers. That's troublesome. So when we took a look at, we still had high expectations for students. We still had high expectations for teachers. But with these constraints, that's really what pushed us to video. It was not because video was transformational. We learned that through our work, and thank goodness we did. And so video was really a tool to meet our constraints initially. We are a one-to-one district. All of our teachers have their own iPad. We spend so much time thinking about how do we get these teachers to use the iPads with their students. We in the Office of Professional Development said, if we don't also start thinking about how are we going to get teachers to use their iPads for professional growth, we thought we're only going to be using these things for 50% of what they're capable for. So that really was a challenge for us. And we're curious, what are the forces that are propelling you to think about video and to think about using video in your settings? Have a conversation with a neighbor. Clearly lots of forces propelling you to this conversation. You know, I love, we were just talking about who's in the room and you know, thinking about so many building administrators. As a former, you know, principal myself, I used to think it was so easy, like, you know, you just have somebody watch somebody and observe next door. But when both teachers have the same plan time at the same time, or the fire alarm goes off, you think you're gonna get a great observation, but then it doesn't necessarily work out that way. So that's one of the things that we've learned, that yes, video has helped us remove a lot of the constraints, time and space, distance, that we were concerned about, what propelled us to start using video. We can reflect anytime, anywhere. We can do it privately, we can do it collegially, and so that has been absolutely fantastic. But it's really around the fact that video is enhancing professional growth for us, the way it's accelerating teacher capacity, the way it's enhancing collegiality and actual giving teachers, empowering them, freeing them so that they can give instructional feedback to their peers, where that might not have happened in the past. And so when we talk about coaching today in our induction model, we really feel that today's coaching is better because of video than yesterday's coaching without it. And so with that, I'd love to turn it over to David, who's going to share one of his seminal stories about kind of our turning point and what we really learned about using video with coaching.
So I want to tell you a story about a teacher of mine. His name's Stephen. Stephen taught middle school, had 6th graders, and he was a very typical first-year teacher. He was very invested in making sure the students loved mathematics, that he had a good relationship with them. But he had that class that we all have as first-year teachers. Typically it's the one right after lunch or right before the end of the day. And he was so involved with doing everything right and getting the kids in, management kind of slipped. And then there was that day that his administrator came in for that observation. Well, we're going to show you a little bit of his class here in just a moment. And the principal had some concerns. Now, I know that probably hadn't happened to anybody else, but the urgency that the principal had, Stephen didn't quite get. And we'd been talking about management, we'd been talking about routines, and he knew the theory. And so one day, I took some video. Well, it was kind of new. I knew that we would get Stephen there, but his principal's like, this has got to get better, or we don't know if you'll be back another year. Well, so I showed the video to Stephen after doing it. Stephen, after about a minute and a half to 2 minutes, started to twitch. He didn't like what he saw. It wasn't what David saw. He saw his kids doing things. He's like, that didn't happen. And then the question became, so what do you want? And he answered very clearly, I want this and this and this. So how are you going to get there? And in a matter of just a few days, he went from a teacher who was struggling with my management, he wasn't getting it, to being a room that the principal could take other teachers and say, watch this transition. Because he saw what he needed to do. So I need to tell you the story on the front end, because when you watch it, you're going to say, oh, but I want you to see Steve. This is 6th grade, right after lunch, it's mathematics. So they're coming in, he's trying to get them settled.
Hey, Adam, Rose, Andrew, you're over here.
So we've edited out some of the preceding 4 minutes, but
Andrew, go grab one more desk fan. Go grab one more desk fan.
And it continued.
All right, 3 is good, and then Jose, you'll bring one of your sets over. All right, now you can do that, guys. My first year, guys. Get the rotation worked out. Groups 3 and 4, let's get notebook open. DeMarco, that means you, notebook open, or a piece of paper. And a pencil.
Hit me up top with a piece of paper.
He had a really clear idea of what he wanted to do. He didn't know how to get there.
We talked last time about some tweaks. We looked at the video, we talked about structure, and you said, these are some changes I'm going to make.
Absolutely.
What have you noticed since then to now? Because I know I saw the stuff out in the hall today, so what are you noticing?
I mean, as we've seen, the structure is so important, especially with those behavior groups, and that's all that class is those behavior kids. Every single one of them. Like I can say maybe 1 or 2 of them I don't need that for, but just really harping on that. And today we just ran through it, and we ran through it until you got there. Like that was right when we stopped. So that was a good 40 minutes of just you know what, I'm going to lose half a day of instruction time. One, the kids are a little fried from park, so why not? And two, by the third time we went from outside to inside to everybody with the paper and pencil in like 45 seconds.
Nice.
It was fantastic.
45
And it really
seconds from
got
what he
the
had
kids working
before.
together, had the kids being accountable for each other. Matt Meisner today was like, guys, he did a little more aggressively, but let's get going. But which is awesome to see from him. He wanted to get into that work time. He saw the structure and he knew how to get there.
Which is a huge step from, I'm mad at you because I don't like this, I need to go to the office.
Mm-hmm. And I had 5 kids today, and through all of conferences, say that this rotation thing is the best thing that they've seen at all. Like, they're like 10 million times better than the beginning of the year, and they're so excited about it. And you can tell that they come in, they're excited because they know exactly what's expected of them, and they know how to get there and how to make me happy at the front of the room, which I think was the thing that we've talked about was missing. Because, yeah, they wanted to, but there wasn't the structures in place where they go, okay, I do this, this, and that. Right now, there's a list.
Mm-hmm.
Come in, get to work. This is what getting to work looks like. So they're ready to start doing that, which has been fantastic.
So what do you think the impact of having the clicker question out in the hall is going to be? Because I know that's another twist on this.
So what we noticed with Stephen was this, and this was one of those transitional moments for me as a coach. I knew that by asking questions, helping him reflect, over time, we would help him develop those habits of what do I need to do to manage and run a good classroom. But Stephen, he was an athlete, but he understood the power of studying himself. And after that first time, after 2 minutes, he was ready to move on. What do I have to do? And so when we asked the questions, what do you want to do differently? He had a very clear plan. He didn't want to be running around the classroom. He wanted it to be orderly. He wanted the kids to walk in, know what to do, sit down, get out their materials, be ready to start. I said, how long? He said, under a minute. Well, I came back in 1 week, and he'd been practicing. We took another video. It was about 4 minutes. Well, down from 17, 4 is a huge improvement. And we asked the exact same questions again. We watched the video and said, what do you want to do? What do you want to tweak? How do you want this to be different? And we adjusted. And so over 3 weeks, he went from what you saw to students. He actually started his warm-up in the hall because the kids lined up. He said, well, if they're lining up, they ought to be doing something. I said, what do you want them doing? I want them to start on their math. And it continued, and it developed into the opportunity for him. But the other part of this, and we call this David's story, because it was the transitional part for me where I realized I could help teachers learn and grow as a coach. I already knew that. I could learn, what my story is, I could learn and help teachers grow more rapidly with greater efficacy and understanding of why am I making the changes I'm making, with video as the evidence, not through my eyes, but through their own eyes. And so we found that I could use video as a tool to help my teachers grow even more rapidly because they didn't have to wait on me. They could continue the learning. So you've seen Stephen. We've talked a little bit about his transition, how that story has changed. You've seen the before and the after. He is still teaching in our district and doing a marvelous job. What are some of the things that ideas you're developing about the potential of video? We've starting to give you kind of a why we're doing it and what was one of the reasons. Talk to somebody near you for elbow partner. Yes.
Can you give us a little bit of structure? Did you hand him the iPad after he's watching it, or you watching it with him? Can you, a little bit of the structure that you were utilizing?
With Stephen, with him, it was actually one of those moments where I decided I'm not using video real well. And I did that thing of, all right, I'm going to only really dive in. I invited my boss for an observation of me. And I handed him the video. And I'm sitting there sweating bullets because I knew what was on it. And fortunately, Diane was wonderful and very gracious. But we watched it side by side. But we watched for 2 minutes, and he's just, and I said, there's almost 20 minutes of this, buddy. And by the end of that class, he was sweating. He had worked so hard, and there was nothing to show for it. So we sat side by side. I let him watch it, and I said, so what do you think? But I could have given him the video and sent him a question and let him watch it on his own if that was created more safety. What made the difference was that we had the conversation based on what he saw.
And thanks for asking that question, Ben, because actually we are going to take you into a model. We use the Gym Night Impact coaching cycle, so we're going to share that with you in a little bit. Awesome. And you'll also find that handout on the last page of your packet. So that's awesome. Thank you.
So, but I want you to see, we're now using video so teachers can see themselves teach and others teach. We have schools that are using this as a lesson study idea. In the past, when you did a lesson study, you either had to have substitutes. Well, we didn't have those anymore. So then we had somebody go in and videotape or use the video. And then they would burn it. Then they would download it. They would edit the movie. They would burn it to a DVD. Then you'd make copies of it, and you'd pass it out to all the teachers who were in the lesson study. And maybe a week later, you're talking about the lesson. As it is now, I can video myself. If I'm in a lesson study or cooperative study with other people, I can share that video with them, and I can say, I'm really interested in the questions students are asking starting at minute 5. Well, if you want to watch the first 4.5 minutes, you can. But I'm interested in knowing about minute 5 to minute 10. And you can go there, and I don't have to do any of that additional work. I can share it immediately. And so teachers can see themselves and each other's teach, but teachers also, because we're asking them to think about their own practice, it gives them that chance to be reflective. It's giving them the chance to share their practice in ways that they never could before. And it's giving teachers a strong opportunity to grow together. We have teachers in our new literacy, we're in our second year of an elementary literacy adoption, they're using video. We're looking at using it with math teachers. We're trying to help people develop some of those collegial habits of reflection in many ways and helping teachers grow by having conversations about teaching. Whenever you go to a teacher function, what does everybody talk about? They talk about their kids and they talk about teaching. This is a way to be focused on evidence about the teaching, not just having a random conversation. But you're able to look at my kids. That kid's driving me crazy. You can watch them and figure out 99% of the time in my room, I wasn't doing something to support that child. When I could watch what I'm doing, I can be more effective. So the idea of acceleration really became clearer with us as we were talking, and as Diane put it, that the learning accelerates when you see yourself teach, but it's watching yourself through your own eyes. What happens is we get so busy. You saw Stephen. He was working the whole time. But he was so busy doing, he didn't have the cognitive capacity to think about what else is going on. Video gives you that pause in time so you can see what is actually going on and watch it through your own eyes and reinterpret it for what should I change? How might I make this better? How may I help this student learn even more? There's a rich body of research we've attached at the end of the slides, some of the research. The research on video goes back over 20 years. But now we can use, as Diane said earlier, we all have cameras. Kids are used to them. We have much more access to them. But the research says if you're noticing yourself, people using video are growing. It's been that way for over 20 years. But we've included some of those great citations. And so at this point, Karen's going to take you through the coaching cycle and how that works.
Okay, so Diane has created some context for us around why St. Vrain chose to embark upon this journey of using video, leveraging the power of video to transform teaching. And David shared with you a really powerful model of what that can look like. What I'm going to do now is talk to you about the process, talk to you about how we in St. Vrain have come to make video an integral part of the work that we do to support teachers. So we are a district that is grounded in the cognitive coaching approach. But what we've been hearing and seeing over the past couple of years is that Jim Knight, who is one of the founders of video coaching, he has developed some really powerful tools to support the coaching process for teacher growth. One of those tools is the impact cycle, and I'll go through the stages of the impact cycle in a few minutes. But the impact cycle is made up of 3 stages: identify, learn, and improve. And what we found was that this cycle fits seamlessly into the work that we were already doing with our teachers. And video is an integral part of each one of those stages of the cycle. So we started experimenting with how we could use Jim Knight's impact cycle with the work that we were already doing to really enhance our coaching process. So the impact cycle and the details of the impact cycle are on the 3rd page or the last page of your handout. I'll quickly go through the stages and talk about how video is woven into each of those stages. In the identify stage, that's where we start. That is where the coach supports the teacher in really getting a clear picture of the current reality. So with David's example and Stephen, that video painted a clear picture of reality for Stephen. He probably wouldn't have constructed that reality in the absence of that video. So in the identify stage, that clear picture of reality is created for the teacher, and then the teacher sets a goal. What do you want to accomplish? And then we move into the learn stage. And in the learn stage, the teacher and the coach talk through instructional practices and instructional strategies that will target that goal. In the 3rd stage, the improve stage, this is the stage where the teacher implements the instructional strategy and the coach collects data for that teacher as they are implementing that strategy. And video, again, is a great tool for collecting that data because it is a very objective mirror for the teacher. So again, as I was saying, that model seemed to fit perfectly with what we were doing in our role as coaches with teachers. So what we're going to do now is you're actually going to see that cycle along with the cognitive coaching in practice. We have a video, a model of what that looks like that we'll share with you. David, if you can just cue that video for us. So what you'll see here is I'm coaching a teacher, a 1st grade teacher, Cheyenne. She's in her 1st year of teaching, and this coaching cycle happened in September at the very beginning of the year. Cheyenne was still grappling with setting up expectations for her students. She wasn't quite clear on what she wanted with her students in terms of behaviors. She knew that she wanted them to sit and learn, but she just really didn't know what that should look like. So you'll see the process unfold through this video. As you're watching the video, 2 things I'm going to ask. One is please do reference Jim Knight's impact cycle on the last page of your handout so you can kind of follow through the thinking behind the coaching. The second thing that I'm going to ask of you as you watch this video is notice how video is seamlessly woven into this process to support Cheyenne's thinking. How your kids did with the carpet area. How do you think that went for you?
Not good.
Okay.
I don't feel good about the carpet right now at all.
Okay.
And I know that I don't feel good about it. And I feel like I want to give them assigned seats. I'm just trying to figure out how to do that because I don't have like in kinder when you have like the squares. So I'm trying to figure out how to give them assigned seats.
Mm-hmm. What do you, when you think about why the kids are fidgeting and why they're kind of interacting with their peers, why do you think they're doing that?
I don't know, they might be bored. But I don't know, no matter like how, if I, like there's times when I'm so enthusiastic and like, this is what we're doing. And it just doesn't, I don't know what to do personally to make it more engaging for them because no matter what I do up there, I still have the same problem, I feel like.
Okay. So you're feeling like no matter how engaging the lesson is, or no matter how engaging you are in lesson delivery, you're still ending up with those same behaviors.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got that one, and I've got this one. I've got two different kind of shots. So let's take this one first, where you were doing the partners with the stick in the circle. Okay. So, sorry. Just so we don't get boggled down. Let's first watch for crisscross.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm seeing 1, 2.
She's driving me nuts.
Okay?
2.
2.
But we didn't use them to find partners
That's all
in
I
the number
can
5.
see.
We used them
Do you
to
see
find
another one?
partners in the number 4.
1, 2. Maybe there's one back here.
That's not.
But we're just going to do the
So,
number.
okay, so a possibility might be that next time I show them exactly what I want to see. Okay, so you've got a visual reminder. What about a verbal reminder?
I usually do crisscross applesauce, hands in your lap.
Yeah, which would take care of the of this piece. So you broke it down.
Yeah.
You were explicit with it. You gave verbal reminders. And you give a visual reminder of a checklist. So you turned your expectations into a procedure, right? You had your, this is what I want it to look like. And you broke it down. And you put that into a procedure, which is now becoming a routine. And that routine is going to become a habit. And now what you want is to build a habit for how kids sit and behave at the carpet area. What parallels do you see between how you taught entry routine and how you might teach building the habit for behaviors at the carpet area?
I mean, sitting down with them and like explicitly teaching it maybe once or twice, and then just keeping that verbal reminder every time that they come to the carpet, and maybe even like making a poster for like how we sit on the carpet. This is what we do.
So how are you going to know you're successful? What are some of the things that you'll see kids doing and hear kids doing that will tell you you're on the right path?
I feel like they'll make better choices about where they're sitting. They won't group together with their friends, even if I remind them not to. And I feel like they're going to be able to answer my questions during lesson, no matter who I call on, because I do that sometimes, where I'm not calling on the people who are always raising their hand.
Okay. In your processing of that particular video, I'd like to give you an opportunity to just think about how the use of video in that coaching session activated Cheyenne's learning in the identify phase. To what extent did it activate what that current reality was? So just have a conversation with a neighbor. So kind of a lot to process. You just saw the identify into the learn stage of Jim Knight's impact cycle, along with some cognitive coaching woven into that coaching conversation. So now I'm going to take you to 3 or 4 days later, where Cheyenne had an opportunity to implement the things that we had talked about because she had clarity in what she wanted and how she was going to get there. So this is that improved stage of Jim Knight's cycle. Let's follow up from where we were last week when we did the observation of your students at the carpet area. Last week you were kind of feeling like great place to do instruction, but my students aren't necessarily exhibiting the behavior supporting learning that I'd like them to be demonstrating at the carpet area. So it wasn't really working. So to recap, we did a model. We made a checklist of the things that you wanted to see at the carpet area. And you've got that posted on your board there. You've got rug rules, crisscross applesauce, spoons in a bowl, looking at Miss Harden, and I think the square was your body needs to be facing.
Yeah.
So how did it go for you today?
They're a little bonkers today. So it's, I don't know, today is a really good way to talk about it, but lately it has worked very, very well.
Okay.
And I mean, I have a few friends who just like, I don't know why, but they just cannot sit crisscross. Like they will sit crisscross my tone, and then 2 seconds later they're out of it. And they're sitting somewhere else. So, I mean, they're all staying in their spots, which is really nice. And having those rules is so nice to just refer back to, because I can just say it, and then they know what they need to fix. And if I have to stop and wait, they know what I'm waiting for, and it's not just like, oh, what, I don't know what it should look like. Now they know what it looks like and what I'm waiting for, and they know how to fix themselves. So it's been really nice, and I feel like there's been a huge change. The amount of work that we're able to get done and the amount of learning we get done. So good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So overall, you've seen a change in behavior. Some of the highlights are that it's really clear for students now what that expectation is.
Yeah.
And now you can start to refer, you've kind of scaffolded them, now you're just referring to some nonverbal cues. But the big piece is that students now know what that expectation is because you've clearly taught it. One of the other things that you're also noticing is that there are some frequent flyers now where some specific students that are still needing those consistent reminders.
Yeah.
What are you seeing and what are you hearing at the carpet area now that makes you think that there are these improvements?
Yeah, so they're able to like repeat back something that I had said earlier in the lesson. If I gave them kind of a hint for an answer for a question, something that I was looking for, they're able to retell it to me because they were paying attention, which is really nice. And it's just like it's less chaotic, like it's calmer. They're like there and they're calmer and they're listening, which is different than it was when they were laying on the floor and playing with friends. So yeah, there's a nicer calmness about the rug area, and I'm not so tense about it. Like I enjoy having them there now instead of being like, oh my gosh, I don't want them on the rug. So yeah.
So you're feeling more in control
Yeah.
when the students are at the carpet area, and you're seeing those behaviors supporting learning having a direct impact on student learning. Okay, so last week when we took a look at your video of your students, let's go ahead and find that data. Let's go ahead and summarize some of the things that we saw. So the crisscross applesauce, 14 students did exhibit that behavior, 4 were not. 16 were facing the teacher during some parts of your instruction, 4 were not. 5 had their hands in their lap, the rest did not. And 5 students were tracking you, would look like 13 were not. So let's take a look at your video today, and let's see if we notice some changes in student behaviors. Let's see if the data looks different around this. So we'll use this same page. Pull that up. And we'll use the same protocol. We'll just go ahead and count those that are and those that are not. Okay. So maybe we'll turn it this way. Nope. Okay, so let's start with the crisscross.
I feel like she moved. She's one of my ones who just can't. She goes
There
back
she goes.
and forth
Yeah.
between it.
So if we look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yep, 8, 9, 10.
We went through that same protocol of observing the students and comparing, and what Cheyenne noticed was exponential growth in her students in terms of what she wanted to see, those behaviors supporting learning at the carpet area. So this image really crystallizes our learning and where we've come in our journey on, with video coaching. So in the past, we relied solely on that face-to-face model of coaching. And we did see gains in teacher capacity, we did see gains in teacher growth, but really when we started incorporating video, there was that hyper-accelerated growth in our teachers. Things moved along a lot more quickly. We could analyze video with our teachers, and we didn't have to wait a week later to see that teacher, right? We could, Diane's gonna show the platform that we use to kind of do that virtual video observation. So that was accelerating that coaching process. What we also found was accelerated was that self-initiated reflection. What we found our teachers doing is that they would videotape themselves. In that model, you saw me videotaping for Cheyenne. But the expectation also was that our teachers were videotaping on their own. And what was happening was a really cool thing. Our teachers would video, and do I want to show this video to my coach? I don't know, let's see. Let's play it. Let me see, do I like what I see? No, I don't like what I see because I'm not doing this, and I should do this a little bit better. So then they would teach the next lesson, being mindful of those things, and record again, watch, and reflect. We weren't even part of that cycle. They were starting to initiate their own coaching cycles, and they were starting to initiate and take responsibility and accountability for their own growth. So you see that hyper-acceleration there. So overall, in our journey over the last 3 years, we've come to realize 3 very critical things about the use of video to support the coaching process. The first piece that we notice is that it scaffolds thinking. In the absence of video, teachers see this much. But video provides a framework for teachers to see multiple aspects of their classroom, which leads into that second learning that we had around video, the noticing patterns. Teachers' ability to notice became sharper. They knew what they wanted to look for, they were looking for it, which then led into our third learning around video. Teachers were starting to notice the impact that their choices had on student learning. And they started making shifts in their choices to impact student learning. So video made them more mindful of the choices that they were making in the classroom. I'm now going to turn it over to Diane because she is going to share a tool that we use to support that video observation process.
So Karen shared a little bit about kind of a gradual release approach that we used with our teachers to get them acculturated to using video. And we used that so that they could have that self-initiated cycle. One of the things that we started using was doing that much more quickly. In the beginning, because we had been such a face-to-face coaching program, it took us a while to realize that our teachers could actually start videotaping themselves on the very first day of school. It was our hesitancy more so than theirs. And so part of our model is, for induction, is the one-on-one coaching with our staff, but we also want them to give each other feedback. And so once they get very skillful with that, we had to think about, well, how are we going to have them give each other feedback? Because we have the constraint of time and distance again. And so we were very fortunate that we found a portal called Edthena that we use across our district, not only for induction, but for other ways where teachers can collaborate. And so we actually have some iPads, and so we have 20 logons, and so we're gonna give you an opportunity to actually engage and go online. So David and Karen are gonna pass those out right now, so you can get a hands-on experience with our video portal. Once you get in, some of these user IDs are fresh. We're in a sandbox, so it's in a helpful way. It's going to say, hey, click here, and it's going to tell you all the features of Edthena. But once you get to this component, if you look on the left-hand side, you should see something that says SVVSD demo. You're going to want to click over here, and you're going to want to get to this page. And so we're going to just work to get everybody so it looks like this. It's password protected. We thought a lot about using YouTube, having people go on, and we just did not feel safe, even with parent permission, posting video online at all. So it is a password protected environment, and even though you have access, the only person who can download the video is the person who uploaded the video. So nobody else has the capacity to download and share, which is really safe. So we really appreciate that. The other thing that I really like about this product, it does allow, even if I buy a user license, I can invite a principal, I can invite someone else. We've done partnership work with CU Boulder, and I don't have to pay a license for them because a teacher can create his or her own professional learning community, and it doesn't cost you anything to give them a license. It only starts costing me money if somebody who's part of the PLC is going to upload more than 2 videos. And quite frankly, that has been really, really nice because easing into this adoption, not everyone is certain right away that they want to try video and they're really going to engage, but once they start, they like it. But you don't have to, on the user side of it, get everyone user licenses and so on and so forth. So on the management side, it's really easy to bring people on board. So has everyone had an opportunity to get in? If not, David and Karen are going around. What we do is we just click on the video, and I'll share with you, this is a video from California, and their Beginning Teacher Association. And we use a lot of model videos to be able to show, it's part of some of our strategy. We look at ourselves, we look at other models, and one of our protocols is we find an opportunity to learn. And so what we do is, for this case, we'd love for you to scroll to about minute, right around 4:30. And this is teaching engagement. The teacher went to great total physical response training, and now she's using all these strategies to increase the engagement in her class. You'll see when you click on the plus sign, you have an opportunity to ask a question for the person that you're watching the video with. You can provide a suggestion. You can say, here's a strength at minute 4:36. And you can also provide a noticing. Once you identify one of those, you have an opportunity to type. So I'll just say, high engagement. Well done. We've also uploaded, Edthena allows you to upload any type of criteria. We've uploaded the Colorado Teacher Quality Standards. So in this opportunity, if you click here, we can say, let's focus on, right now we're focusing on Standard 2 in the Teacher Quality Standards. And I might want to tag this to engages students for this Timestamp. You'll see that it creates a dialogue strand where you...
Class. Yes. 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Jade, tell me what you were telling Garrett.
So I can also reply to somebody else's response and add on to that conversation as well. So it's really, really a phenomenal opportunity for teachers. And at first we thought, well, just teachers across the district, we can't really get them together. But teachers are using this when they're right next door to each other. And it's just bringing together some amazing collaboration. So has everybody had an opportunity to get in and to try? Our protocol, we recommend watching video. So if you go to like minute 4:30 to 10:30 and just watch it through a first noticing without doing any tags, and then go back for a second view, and then go ahead and add a question or suggestion or whatever you like. But go ahead and play. Just try it out. See what you think. So hopefully you've had some time to process through what some of the benefits are for using video in your professional development and maybe your induction program. And you've had some opportunities to really take a look at what challenges you might need to anticipate. Had some really good conversations around swivels. We do use swivels. Some of our teachers love the swivel, where they have the little marker, and when they walk around the classroom, it follows them. Some of our teachers get creeped out by that. They don't like that. They just kind of put their phone up on a file cabinet and lean it against those science textbooks they use so much, and then they just kind of hang it right there. And, right, Kale? They lean it up there, and then they just kind of get the whole, spray of the classroom. So they do a whole bunch of different stuff. Do you guys have any questions? Any thoughts or, yeah?
So when you guys started this, how did you pick how long to video, what you were going to target? I mean, I can think of a couple teachers that I could use this for in my building for classroom management stuff or good instructional practices. But do you make an hour-long video every time? Do you take 15 minutes? Do you ask the teacher what you want to do?
Yeah.
I mean, where did you start that?
We started without having any parameters, and we got really tired of watching 90-minute videos all the time. It was much too long. And so what we hope you kind of saw through Karen's modeling, if you have to have a conversation around a specific goal, that's one of the reasons why we really like the gym night model. Have a goal. Is it classroom management? Classroom management's really, really broad. For Cheyenne, it was the carpet. For Stephen, it was walking into the room. So it's got to be very, very narrow. And we really think 20 minutes of a video is perfect. Any more than that, it just gets really too much. And so, go ahead.
So then did you pre-conference with a teacher to say, what is your goal? What do you want to focus on?
Yes.
Or did you as an administrator just walk around and be like, wow, you're terrible at that. I'm going to video this.
Our principals, in our agreement with our teachers, our principals are not allowed to take photos or videos of our teachers teaching. It has to be a teacher-initiated request. And so all of our professional development coaches, you as a principal, you might call my office and say, Diane, I've got a teacher, I need a short-term targeted coaching. That's what it's called in our district. Short-term targeted coach, send them, come to my, and then they start that process. You could do it as an administrator, and many people do. And I think it's really your culture. I would want to as a principal, and I hope that I would develop that level of trust with a teacher and say, look, let's just try it. Let's just see what it looks like. Because what I hope you saw in some of those videos, especially with Karen's, when you just say what we heard Cheyenne say is, I don't like the carpet. The carpet's bad. It's crazy at the carpet. But it wasn't until Karen actually had her say, what is it you want to see kids doing? Crisscross, hands in a bowl, facing me. And then they counted and they looked at it. It was the same thing with Stevens. If you don't have a goal that you can measure, it's too nebulous. Too big. Steven, 12 minutes to get in. Then he got it to under 4. Then he got it to 45 seconds. And then, because of this, he created something no one else was doing in the district. And that was putting the warm-up outside the classroom. I've never seen that done before. He's like, I bet I could even get these kids working on math even sooner before class starts. So he put the warm-up in the hallway, and the kids were like doing math in the hallway, standing in line. And when they came in, they got to work right away. He innovated in a way we had never even thought before.
The other thing that he did off of that was he used some of his electronic tools to then do a formative assessment based on his warm-up as the kids walked in the door. So the video helped him see the whole. And then he said, I know as a teacher I can do more. And so then the video helped him see those changes over time. But it was amazing to see those kids doing math and talking math in the hall when all the rest of the 6th graders were running around. They were talking about the question because they knew when they walked through the door they're going to have to answer it. Mm-hmm. Not when they got to their chairs, as they walked through the door. Because he decided that his classroom, after watching video, didn't begin after the bell rang. It happened when the kids walked through the door to his room, and that was his final goal. From what you saw to when they walk in the door, they're my kids.
Okay.
Thank you all so much. We're going to hang out for more questions. Thank you for spending time with us today.